The more time passes, the more it seems as though D.H. Lawrence is one of the most evident before and after of all authors in the history of English literature. A 1960 trial regarding the long-delayed UK publication of Lawrence's novel Lady Chatterley's Lover is often considered of monumental significance to those who push the permissive society narrative. The novel in question, among other controversies, featured uses of the words fuck and cunt, and its artistic merit was successfully defended by a series of noted British authors and scholars, permitting certain taboos in English publishing to become former taboos. But even before this, Lawrence's work was heavily vilified in his lifetime, 1885 to 1930, although now he has been considered ahead of his time, writing candidly about human relationships, class interaction, and subconscious impulses. Sons and Lovers was initially published in heavily abridged, 1/10 missing it has been said, form in 1913, and only published of its initial completion in 1992. A letter written by Lawrence from 1912 in correspondence with that same censorious publisher, Edward Garnett, outlines his intent with writing Sons and Lovers. To be charitable to Garnett, no one else would have likely dared to publish Sons and Lovers at all, as he had become friends with Lawrence prior, but nevertheless, in attempting to avoid an obscenity trial, he convinced Lawrence to abridge sections and even certain word choices, substituting the suggestive hip with the vague body. Anyway, that passage from said letter reads, "It follows this idea. A woman of character and refinement goes into the lower class and has no satisfaction in her own life. She has had a passion for her husband, so her children are born of passion and have heaps of vitality, but as her sons grow up she selects them as lovers, first the oldest, then the second. These sons are urged into life by their reciprocal love of their mother, urged on and on, but when they come to manhood, they can't love, because their mother is the strongest power in their lives, and holds them. It's rather like Goethe and his mother, and Frau von Stein and Christiana. As soon as the young men come into contact with women, there's a split. William gives his sex to a fritter, and his mother holds his soul. But the split kills him, because he doesn't know where he is. The next son gets a woman who fights for his soul, fights his mother. The son loves his mother. All the sons hate and are jealous of the father. The conflict goes on between the mother and the girl with the son as object. The mother gradually proves stronger because of the ties of blood. The son decides to leave his soul in his mother's hands and, like his elder brother, go for passion. He gets passion. Then the split begins to tell again. But almost unconsciously, the mother realizes what is the matter and begins to die. The son casts off his mistress, attends to his mother dying. He is left in the end naked of everything, with the drift towards death. For those who aren't aware, Sons and Lovers concerns a mother's relationship with her two sons, how it substitutes for a loveless marriage, and how it affects a son's ability to emotionally connect with other women as an adult. Wow, that's a bit radically intense for 1910s literature, right? Almost comes across a post-Freudian text, although Lawrence himself expressed disdain, or at least disagreement, with Freudian psychoanalysis, so be slightly wary of perceiving it in these exact terms. But this is not novel of the day, although I do encourage anyone interested in further exploring this novel, or D.H. Lawrence in general, if they feel so inclined. Of course, I am today interested in discussing Jack Cardiff's 1960 film adaptation of Sons and Lovers, starring Dean Stockwell, Wendy Hiller, Trevor Howard, and Mary Err. The most immediate aspect of praise about this film is Freddie Francis's Academy Award-winning cinematography, captured, I hope well, throughout my screen caps here. Freddie Francis we all know and love as a premier British horror and general genre director throughout the 1960s and 1970s, although he began his film career as a much celebrated cinematographer, and ended it photographing certain features for David Lynch himself. The power of this novel is translated extraordinarily well into Cardiff's film. This was one of Cardiff's absolute finest accomplishments as a director, and I have no doubt that his established eye for good cinematography helped influence the high quality of Francis's. Sons and Lovers is fundamentally a story about a woman who regrets marrying and settling down with her husband of choice, although adores her offspring, perhaps somewhat or outright unhealthily. Trevor Howard gives this film's most impressive, and I believe most celebrated, performance as the family patriarch Walter Morrell. To paraphrase this character at one point in the film, at one point his son Paul, the story's protagonist, is being offered an illustrious education by a snobbish upper-class art patron who expresses rudeness and contempt for his father Walter, despite Walter's face being the subject of Paul's art, which had piqued the patron's initial interest in Paul. Naturally, the present Walter expresses offence in response, and acts boisterous. Paul asks him then, I think he asks, "Why do you do that?" And Walter states in reply, "People don't love me because I'm low, and so I act low." This sequence is one of the greatest and most encapsulative artistic expressions of cultural class divide ever depicted on film, or in any art. Why not? Sons and Lovers as a text, novel, or film is a monumental narrative wherein the tragedy of emotional expectations, the need for love, to be loved, is the most beautiful motivator and also the cruelest of disappointments. Sons and Lovers as a film adaptation not only fit very neatly into the British new wave of kitchen sink realist seriousness, but also illuminates the psychological conflicts which drive the depicted drama, displaying them as intended, not mere players in a relatable human conflict, but representations of existential inevitabilities. Lawrence's narrative gets at the heart of being itself. If the great motivator in life is romantic love, the solace for any disappointment is parenthood, and then terror amasses as the child seeks a unique romantic love of their own. This is elevated from societal triviality and relayed as a question. What is life's reward? I find Lawrence's narrative very powerful, and Jack Cardiff's film is an exceptional realization of it. I implore any and all of you to view 1960s Sons and Lovers.